Even though they're doing something that's making your chi rise at that moment. You have control because the hun is working. The hun is filtering there in some way, is able to, right? So that brings us to the last one of our healthy factors. No excessive emotional outbursts. We're checking the condition of the liver. When your liver is sick, you can't control your emotions. You display them, even if it's to your detriment. So when you do, if you're prone to do things, even though you know the consequence is not going to be helpful, productive, useful for you, or whatever, you just, I'm so dang mad, I can't help it, I'm going to hit you. That's a liver problem. It's just, you know. Now, if you're so dang angry, you hit him and you don't even know you're doing it, that's a Shen problem. So as I say, the liver is about, the hun stored in the liver is about emotional regulation and control, hence no excessive emotion. But the Shen is about appropriateness of behavior. There's a difference there. It's knowing right from wrong, knowing how to be, knowing. And so, again, an example from pediatrics often is in the throwing of a tantrum. Kids who are angry, aggressive, and so forth is a liver problem. But tantrums often go beyond that. The child sort of checks out. You can't even reason with them. That's usually now, that heat perhaps that is causing the qi to upflush in the liver has now harassed the Shen. And the kid is like not even home anymore. So now we have to clear heart as well as liver to treat that kind of tantrum. And so it was very easy in the classical books to talk about appropriateness of behavior. Because if you have a society where there are very clear norms, any deviation from ability to stick with those norms was seen as Shen disturbance. This is why romantic love was traditionally said to be one of the strongest of the emotional factors disturbing the Shen. Because romantic love always makes you act in inappropriate ways. You don't care what your parents, you can imagine what they're talking about in a classical discussion, right? The parents decide who you're marrying, mostly because they want to join with that particular other family, right? It was all about family exchange, right, with arranged marriages. And often you didn't even meet the person until very late on in the process. The parents were already deciding this was a good union. So you can imagine how romantic love upset those plans for the parents. No, I don't want to marry him. I don't care if he comes from a good family. I don't care if it would be good for our joint businesses that we were together. I love this other guy because he's got a cute haircut. That's like, that's a Shen disturbance. Right? You're acting inappropriately. Right? So it was easy in a classical setting to say what Shen disturbance was. And then, of course, even that gets further compounded the more Confucian you get. Confucius' whole notion was that if we understand proper relationship and we adhere to that, we can see this Confucian influence so much in all the discussions of mental disorders in Chinese medicine, because mental disorders are never defined, classically at least, in terms of how you feel inside. It's how you behave on the outside. Totally different than what we tend to do in the West, where I feel depressed is often the first thing the person says. I have a mental disorder. I feel depressed. No. What is the first discussion of depression in Chinese medicine? It's always about withdrawal. It's you're not doing your outward behaviors right. That's the way we define it. I don't care how you feel. That's practically irrelevant. What it is how are you displaying yourself outward? That's what's going to define. And so we don't have depression as a mental disorder in Chinese medicine so much. We do have stagnation as a mental disorder, which people say is kind of like depression. But we talk a lot about withdrawal. Withdrawing the Shen so you're not actively engaged appropriately in your outside relationships and stuff. You're not, So they saw it that way. And that's very Confucian, because Confucius was the way to a happy life, the way to a happy society is everybody finds their appropriate place and does that to their optimum. Doesn't want to be anything else, doesn't want to do anything else. This is what's appropriate for me. It's the job I've inherited from my father. It's the wife that's been picked by my mother. I do all that appropriately. Oh, now everything works perfect. That's a healthy mind. That's the classical view. How does that fit for us? I mean, we have no such notion in modern society. So it's really more difficult to clearly define healthy Shen in terms of appropriateness of behavior. Because nobody agrees what's appropriate. And a lot of things that would have been crazy at one time, people think is perfectly fine to do now. You know, and so...
Would it be fair to say that the classical view is more like a behavioralist approach, like Skinner's view of the world, maybe? Not exactly, but that kind of view that everyone has to take their own behavior as their basic responsibility, and that's...
I would go beyond that. It's an interesting point when you talk about behaviorists because the psychotherapy of traditional Chinese medicine, even as it carries through to now, is all kind of cognitive, behavioral kinds of things. It's acting as if. It's deciding how you want to be or what's appropriate for you and just trying to do that no matter what. That's seen as a way to make your Shen become healthier. And so there is this sort of behaviorist aspect to it, but it's even more, it's like sort of societal behaviorism in that you're not even picky, you know, or it's not like sort of nature sort of banging you in a certain direction as behaviorism often is. It's just, you know, reward and punishment sort of direction. It's like that we can come to some kind of collective agreement on what appropriate is, and then your ability to conform to our collective agreement. I think that part is very uncomfortable to modern people. Because we're very individualist here, right? We don't like that somebody says the right way for you to be, whether it's because you are a woman or because you're younger or older or because you're whatever, there's a right way for you to be because of who you are. We've decided. Ooh, that's pretty uncomfortable, you know. But I think classically that was a very accepted notion. And so we see